Yeah. So what type of like, how was handling COVID in general? Like that was like probably one of the craziest things of the century.
It was tough because I don't feel like we had that much support. So we had to like basically invent our own like epidemiologist. Not invent the epidemiologist. Obviously, we brought people from the university system, but we had to invent kind of like our own team to deal with it. And then I always felt like I was the only person in the room that was kind of like articulating the economic side of it, right? Because like you're saying, you have to close down your gym. There's an economic side, which is, yeah, there's a risk, but you have to balance that risk with the economic impact, right? Of like shutting down the entire universe, right? In a given moment. So I think that was a mistake, that there wasn't enough economists in the room that are saying like, hey, look, this disease has this much morbidity, but at the same time, it has this much of an impact on the economy, right? So I think Miami and Florida were relatively open compared to everybody else.
Miami, for sure. I was going to say, I mean, we would come here and it was like kind of almost like, not normal, but it was compared to LA or other cities. It was like,
totally. And I think it benefited us because I think, at the end, we're number one in pandemic recovery. So when you consider like the stats, again, economic, we're number one in pandemic recovery. And I think part of the reason why is because people decided at that moment, it was a watershed moment, because people decided at that moment, wait a second, maybe I don't have to be in New York or in California to do certain things. Like, for example, if you're in finance, maybe you don't have to be in New York to do finance. Or if you're in venture, maybe you don't have to be in California to do venture. And I remember Ken Griffin specifically coming to Palm Beach and basically taking over the Four Seasons in Palm Beach. And he's a huge market maker.
What does he do?
He runs Citadel.
Okay.
Massive company.
Yeah.
And he's arguably one of the biggest market makers in terms of buying and selling of stocks. And so when he left, I think people for the first time realized that you didn't have to be physically somewhere to be successful. Like New York could literally overnight like move to Miami, or so could Silicon Valley. And right around that same time, somebody put out a tweet on December 4th that said, what if we move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I responded, how can I help? And that was like,
that was a big shift that whole
super
time.
Viral.
I feel like
super viral.
Would you say Miami, like COVID kind of like made Miami in a way? Like
it was a big part of it because the remote work phenomenon, people leaving. And then I have something I call the FlyMo effect, which is flywheel plus FOMO combined, FlyMo, right? Like the FlyMo effect of people just sort of saying, hey, wait a second, there's something special going on here.
I got to be here too,
this place that we've always loved to come visit and have a good time at is now a place where you could do serious work. And so now we moved in about 2 years, and this is a rough estimate, about 3 trillion in assets under managed companies to Miami. It's about 130 plus companies, 9 billion in wages.